Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Rushcliffe series. This is the southernmost district in Nottinghamshire and it contains 59 civil parishes of England. And there's some corkers down here. Let's dive in and check one out. Welcome back to Rushcliffe, everybody. Now, I'm beginning this one on a footpath which will take us around some old quarries, and some active quarries actually, up to a churchyard. But it's not an active churchyard, it's the old churchyard for the village we're about to explore in a few moments' time. This is Rempstone. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Rempstone, Wrinkled village. No folks, I'm genuinely not making that up. Rempstone's name literally translates as the wrinkled village or the place of the wrinkled one. It's believed to be related to the landscape, perhaps referring to the contours of the village. After all, we are on the Nottinghamshire Wolds once again. The truth is somewhat shrouded within the mists of time on the matter, but whatever the case, let's discuss the place in a bit more detail. Rempstone is located on a major crossroads where two important routes across Nottinghamshire meet. These are the A60 between Nottingham and Loughborough and the A6006 which connects Melton Mowbray to the A6. The crossroads is perhaps the main reason why people know this place. It can be extremely busy at peak times. Rempstone has a bit more than just a major road junction though. There are two pubs in this village, one on the crossroads and the other on the road to Wymeswold. There's also several thatched cottages, typical examples of the early buildings which would have once been all over the village. Most interestingly though, Rempstone has two churchyards, although the one at St Peter in the Rushes has long been abandoned. It's a good little episode this, I thought. Come with me and let's see what Rempstone is all about. We start with a short walk via a public footpath that runs from the A6006 near Stamford Hall up to the site of the former parish church. This path passes between some quarry workings on your screens now. These belong to Cemex, who operate them as Eastleigh Quarry, which offers a range of high-quality aggregates to building projects across the local area, particularly those in nearby Leciestershire. You must stay to this path. There are several signs indicating the dangers of the quarry workings along here. Some of them are abandoned, but some are still active. At the end of the path you find the small former churchyard of St Peter in the Rushes. St Peter's was built well away from the current village because it was close to a manor house. A settlement grew up around it, but as the name In the Rushes implies, the area was marshy and the people who lived here gradually discarded it, moving to more solid terrain. The remains of the old church have long since disappeared, but much of its old stone was reused in the new church building we'll see later. Other fragments appear in houses such as Rempstone Farm and Grange Farm. Okay, so there you go, the old St Peter's churchyard. Been left to grow wild now, hasn't it? It's very much abandoned and out of the way, but there are still some gravestones in here if that's your thing. If you like to explore an old churchyard, this is the place to come, and it's not a far walk from the road actually. So yeah, awesome. Now we're going to head into Rempstone village itself and check out the other church on our main walk around the village. We start our main walk on Weissel Road at the eastern end of Rempstone. There are many historic buildings in this village, but not many that predate the 17th or 18th centuries. After the original Rempstone village had been abandoned, people moved to the western side of the Nottingham to Loughborough Road, which was turnpiked in 1737. Most of the new village grew up along this one road, Main Street. The oldest properties include Top Farm, close to this junction, which dates back to 1650. It has been said that Top Farm was the first brick house ever to be built in Nottinghamshire. Next we have a more modern building. Dating from 2011, it's the Village Hall, built with funding from the National Lottery and local authorities and businesses. The focus for many a village event, the Hall is a registered charity run by local trustees for the benefit of the parish and the wider population. Close to the entrance is a parish notice board, so let's get Rempstone marked off our Rushcliffe list. Next door is a gorgeous old building with a thatched roof, known simply as the Cottage. This dates from the mid-17th century and it's Grade 2 listed. Feast your eyes on this, folks. The Cottage is a timber frame building originally built as a crook with red brick infill that's been rendered externally. Its thatched roof is typical of the type that would have been popular among the early village properties, but most have now disappeared due to neglect and change. Next, on a bend in the road, is the White Lion pub. This may have a legitimate claim to be the oldest pub in Nottinghamshire. Although its signboard bears a date of 1836, parts of this building date back to the 13th century. It was almost certainly a stopping point for coaches in the days of the turnpike. Opposite the pub are a pair of gate piers which lead to the manor house, a late 17th century brick building. It's not this. This attractive house with its high-pitched roof is the one next door, but it too is made of brick. This is no surprise when you consider the manor house was once owned by a brickmaker. Rempstone Brickworks was situated in a field below nearby Sutcliffe Hill, but there's no longer any evidence of the kilns or the clay pits which created many of the oldest houses. Moving on, next we have the thatch. Early photographs show that this too was once a typical red brick building. Now let's talk schools. Rempstone has no educational establishment these days, but it used to. Halfway up School Lane is the building in question. Erected by Lady Sitwell in 1848, this is now a private house, and Rempstone's nearest school is in neighbouring Costock. School Lane is a dead end, although if you so desired, you can walk between this and the village hall owing to a public right-of-way. For us, it's an about turn as we head for the A60 next, the former turnpike between Nottingham and Loughborough. Now, traffic-wise, this is the busiest area of the village. Rempstone has always been, since its coaching days, a busy village for travellers. As a turnpike, tolls to maintain it were taken at Coates Bridge and Trent Bridge. Nowadays, we know it as the A60 and it's still very busy. This crossroads, traffic lighted as it is, can be an absolute nightmare at peak times. The guest house stands on the crossroads. Dating back to the 1890s, this used to be a coaching inn on the turnpike called the Ship, and before that it was a farmhouse. For many years this was left derelict, but now it's been redeveloped and has 15 large airy bedrooms for the modern traveller. On the hill next to the junction is All Saints Church. This dates from the 1770s. It was built after St Peter in the Rushes had deteriorated into a ruinous state, and a new site was granted for a religious building. The tower of the new church bears the date 1771 on an inside stone, about halfway up a spiral staircase, perhaps marking the point that the masons had reached by that date. All Saints wasn't consecrated, however, until 1773. This was done by the Archbishop of York, who came by coach from Nottingham. The original font bowl from St Peter in the Rushes is still in use here. The remainder of the route is a short amble down the road to Loughborough, the former turnpike, before we turn left and make our way across a field via a public right-of-way. You do think at this point you're heading into the middle of nowhere, but trust me, this is the right way to go. It's quite hilly and a bit swampy in places, but this little knoll, sited around the back of some of the houses on Main Street, does occasionally offer some good views if you know where to stand. I think the weather, though, on this particular morning had a few other ideas. And that footpath brings you back to familiar territory. Here we are again near the White Lion pub, and all I've got to do is walk back to the beginning from here. Nice walk around Rempstone. Not quite done with this one just yet because there's a bit of driving I need to do at the end of this episode, because on the way to the next village there's something which might interest the aviation enthusiasts out there. Initially, I missed this last landmark because it was so difficult to spot the sign for it. It was hiding away behind a tree. As such, I had to turn around, so we're approaching this from the north instead of the south. In a farmyard on a hill above the village is a business by the name of East Midlands Helicopters. First established in 1988, East Midlands Helicopters is the oldest and largest helicopter operator in the Midlands, having been going for the last 25 years. They fly helicopters for charter, pleasure flights and training, but also undertake work that includes filming and photography. Blimey, how good might it have been if they'd known I was coming? We could have seen Rushcliffe from the air. In any case, all they do is done from what is a tiny airstrip between Rempstone and Costock. And that's it for the parish of Rempstone. Time for us to head north towards the next one, passing along the way a garden centre which falls within its boundaries. Next week, we'll be looking at a much bigger village, one which, unlike Rempstone, was never moved from its original position and still retains its historic core. There's a school, a pub, a church, and even a nature reserve to observe. See you there. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.